want to do is give you a deeper, more profound understanding. You know, for example, the first step of the 8 steps is simply called the Yamas. So there you've got another Sanskrit word. What do I do with that, right? The Yamas. The Yamas themselves have 5 parts, and we'd be here until doomsday if I tried to go through each of the 5 Yamas, you know, the great, profound investigation, you know, that they merit. So I'll highlight certain things, like the word ahimsa, non-violence, ahimsa. We'll say includes ahimsa. It's a word that people are starting to know in the West. In fact, my colleague, Christine Holmgren, gives an entire philosophy class on nonviolence, and she looks, among other things, at how to apply these teachings of nonviolence in today's politically, shall we say, tempestuous world. You know, she looks at the history of nonviolence, and certainly she looks at its Hindu history, the Jain history, and what it means for us and what we might learn and take from these teachings. Nonviolence. On a superficial level, we think, okay, it means use my words, you know, don't hit people. Well, yeah, it does mean that, but that's a very superficial understanding. I mean, what is violence? Really, in a more profound way. Can you think of any examples of violence that go a little bit deeper than the superficial understanding? How about negative thoughts towards somebody? How about jealous thoughts towards somebody? To the yogi, that's a form of violence. That's the seed of violence. It's like a little toxic seed that yields weeds in the world of your relationships. Because at that moment, you're not wishing well. You're not wishing well at all. You wish the universe would take it away from that person, whatever good thing it is, and that you should have it instead. So it's malicious. That's another great word, malicious. Malicious. Okay, Spanish speakers, what's mal?
Bad.
Bad. So malicious has the same word root. Etymologically, it comes from the same place, has the same Latin word root, malicious. So you know that it's bad kinds of thoughts, negative, ill-wishing thoughts, as opposed to benevolent ones. Exactly, and mal is the same in French too. And benevolent is the opposite, bene, good. Bueno in Spanish, good. So benevolent thoughts are good thoughts. And so bringing us back to this notion of violence, we see that it's much more than just physical actions that are very tangible and palpable. It's about attitudes, too. Attitudes, mental attitudes, and what you project toward others. It's also about what you eat. Are you sustaining violence in the world by eating a violent diet? You know, and it takes some courage and some honesty to look at our patterns of thinking and our patterns of consuming, because these are ways that we indirectly contribute to violence and destruction. I actually brought something in that's very special to me, and I'm going to read a little passage to you on this. We talked about the Self-Realization Fellowship on Sunset and PCH, founded by Paramahansa Yogananda, whose name you might know because his most well-loved book, Autobiography of a Yogi, has been translated in countless different languages and just celebrated its 60th year in print, recently re-released. But he's written so many things, and this is a book that he wrote called The Divine Romance. So it's really about yoga. It's about all of the different yogas, actually. I have a note to myself to read from page 324, so let's see what I find there. We talked about the violence that we find in our diets. He says, most people are heavy meat eaters and neglect fresh fruits and vegetables in their diet. As a result, their kidneys and intestines are infected, and all kinds of troubles develop. Meat is not an essential to health. In fact, it is harmful. The cow is supplied with all its nourishment merely by eating grass. The elephant and the horse get their strength and stamina from a vegetarian diet. Why do intelligent human beings cultivate such bad and violent eating habits? Why do you persist in wrong eating, even when you know better? Because you were not started out with the right habits. The habit of liking those foods has been established. That's the misuse of the power of habit. He says, but bad habits are like an octopus. It's much easier to be good than to suffer the consequences of wrong actions. It's a little difficult sometimes to resist temptation because your senses try to entrap you. But once you get into the habit of being good, it's very hard to be bad because you know you'll be beaten up within and without by doing something you know is wrong and that'll make you sick. And then there's no fun in having bad habits. Wow. And I think that it's hard for us in this culture that encourages very, very heavy consumption to look at these things and to say, gosh. And all of us, are on a path. Nobody's perfect. Nobody uses the right lawnmower. Nobody drives the right energy efficient car. There are always cars that are more energy efficient and light bulbs that are more energy efficient. And all of us, use more fuel than we should in many ways. We don't all wear the right things. We're all on a path. And so the awareness is not to put us in a judgmental frame of mind, but rather in a compassionate one and in an honest one that allows us to look openly at ourselves and with courage and to do that more than looking at others. Rather than judging others, we're looking honestly at ourselves, and it takes such courage. Because there's always room to grow, and it'll take thousands of lifetimes to really get it right, unfortunately for most of us. Such is the power of habits, right? This is Raja Yoga. It's all part of the Yamas. And so to bring us back now to the point at hand, what are the Yamas? Although ahimsa, non-violence, what happens when you stick A at the beginning of any word? It negates it. So like amoral is not to say that someone is immoral, it's to say that there's no moral value to be found. So ahimsa is non-violence. So that's part of the Yamas. And we saw that it includes more than just physical actions, it includes attitudes too. But the Yamas really as a whole include what we call restraints, restraining behaviors. And people think, oh, is it kind of like the commandments? Well, no, not really, because they don't tell you that something is absolutely wrong or absolutely right. They tell you instead to look at these restraints as suggestions because of the tendency of such actions to keep us mired in destructive habits. So it's not that we'll be punished because we did something wrong or we fell off the wagon. It's that these kinds of behaviors aren't good for us. And it keeps us from our goal of moksha, entering into a higher place. I can't enter into a higher place if I'm living a life of destruction, right?